what the evening is going to look like, but I always depend on Holy Spirit sending me some kind of message, either on Tuesday or even the day before. And I usually send thing over to Rosalind and say, "What do you think?" And she said, "Oh, either I love it or I want to do something to it." And that's how we really do it. We do it in real time, or as they say, live on the original live television when nothing was ever live. So today I came across this thing, and let me first read. I was on Open Minds, which is, I do always say to people, please join Open Minds. It's where I have a group with 31,000 members, and almost everybody there is what we call a light worker, and always sharing what it is that they want others to know. So I'm going down through the postings. I see this thing called Dealing with Unconscious People. And I almost flew right by it. And then all of a sudden, something clicked in my mind. I said, wait a minute, that's for me. Because, many times in my relationships, I say, I know they're going to start talking about this. And it really, it kind of irritates me. And I kind of avoid people where I know the conversation is going to be really into, oh, this is my story, I want you to know my story. And I don't go there. And it's like, I understand that you have a story, but my way of looking at your story is that it's not true. You're dreaming, and I can't tell you that you're dreaming because you actually take it as an insult. So there's nothing I can really do for you. I came across this title, and I did post it on, it says Dealing with Unconscious People. I'm going to let Rosalyn play it instead of me talking. It takes about 10, 12 minutes. And let's hear what he has to say. It starts off with, as we awaken more and more, it seems that the people that we can share our realizations with seem to be less and less.
So, okay, go ahead and finish your sentence.
In other words, people who have realized find themselves in a rather lonely position. Lonely is in quotes. In this lovely 10-minute video, we explored the question, how do we deal with unconscious people that don't understand what I'm saying when I'm saying, hey, listen, you got to laugh. What you're looking at isn't real. And they look at me like I'm crazy. And I kind of feel, that it's a lonely place. So without further ado, turning it over to you, Rosalyn.
Beautiful. And before we okay, Rico, I'm going to mute you.
I'm trying to mute myself.
Okay. All right, you did it. Before we start the video, which we will do very, very shortly, I would like you to do what Dov just did and think of somebody like that who maybe you distance yourself from, or you feel like, oh, they always complain and you don't really enjoy talking to them, or you know their story, or somehow you feel you're maybe a little more evolved than them, that was you 3 years ago or 10 years ago, and you're not so interested. You get what I mean. Just have somebody in mind, because I think this is really more useful if you come from the place that Dov came from, which is like, wait, that's me. I gotta watch this. So raise your hand if you already have somebody. Yeah. Anybody not have anyone yet? Need a little more time? Rico, we're just talking about a video that Dov found where the subject is, what do you do when you find yourself kind of lonely because you're distancing yourself from people who are more unconscious than you, is the word he uses. That's not my word, it's his word. So everybody has someone or some situation that you distance yourself from because you're tired of that, or whatever your words are. Okay. All right. Now we will do our best to share screen. And
how to deal with unconscious people. This is a question that comes up quite frequently. And before we delve too deeply into that, I just want to acknowledge that for many of us, myself included, as we begin to awaken, we often find ourselves quite alone in that regard. That is, we may find that those around us, including our close friends and family, remain very much asleep. Not only that, but typically they show no interest in waking up and may even be adverse to it. And that aversion may also be extended toward our own awakening. That is, our awakening may seem to make some people a little uncomfortable. And with all that said, we may find ourselves not merely alone, but feeling rather alienated, finding ourselves surrounded by unconscious people. And it can often be very challenging because most people are not very conscious of their own behavior or how it affects others. Most people are self-absorbed rather than self-aware. And so this can bring about all sorts of tension and conflict. But as to this question of how to deal with such people, we really have to look at the question itself. We have to ask where this question is coming from, because the question suggests a problem that needs to be addressed. And what is that problem? To share from my own experience with all of this, and by the way, I've listened to many other people's experiences with this, and they're all very similar. But to share from my own experience, I recall one person in particular in my life who, although they were very well-meaning, they had a lot of unconscious behaviors that I found particularly irritating. And so every time I was around this person, I would find myself getting really irritated. And this person was very self-absorbed, always in their own head, always rambling on about trivial things which I had no interest in at all. The conversations were very much one-sided. They didn't really listen very well, and they had all kinds of other quirks that just seemed to agitate me in so many ways. But as I sat with that agitation and began looking deeply into it, what I came to realize was that this other person was not the cause of it. That agitation was rising up from within me. And as I traced it back down, what I found beneath it was a great deal of disappointment and frustration in regard to many things in life. Too many things to go into here. So what I had come to recognize was that this feeling of irritation was very much an unconscious reaction, which was arising from underlying feelings of frustration. And even though some of that frustration was in regard to this other person, most of it had very little or nothing to do with them. So in other words, my irritability was something that was always there inside of me, but certain people, like this person, seemed to do all the right things to trigger it. And if you just observe human beings in general, we all have this tendency to be reactive with one another. Whenever someone does something or says something, there's usually an automatic reaction to it that happens without any conscious thought or reflection. And so when we're around someone who we consider as unconscious, and we find ourselves feeling frustrated or irritated or angry or upset or whatever it happens to be, what it really comes down to is that our reaction itself is quite unconscious. It's just that unconscious automatic reaction. And it's due to something within us that we're not fully aware of, something that we have not yet fully acknowledged and resolved in ourselves. So when we talk about how can we deal with unconscious people, what we really need to give attention to is our own reactivity, to bring awareness to those areas within ourselves where we are still unconscious. There's this tendency to think that there are conscious and unconscious people, or people who are asleep and those who are awake, as if there's a clear-cut division between the two. But in actuality, for most of us, awakening is a gradual, ongoing process. We might have some initial awakening experience, but it's usually just the beginning, and there's still a lot more waking up to do. We become more conscious than we were previously, but there may still be many areas within us where we're still deeply unconscious. And so, in some sense, the people that show up in our lives, or who may already be a part of our lives, that trigger these reactions in us, we can come to see that as an opportunity to become more conscious, to awaken all or more. So when someone triggers some emotional reaction in us, that's an opportunity for us to look within ourselves and find out where that reaction is arising from. What's really the cause of it? Our unconscious tendency is to think that the other person is the cause of it. But as we become more conscious of our own internal mechanisms, we come to recognize that they're just doing what they do. And yes, their behavior may be unconscious, but it's not the cause of our emotional reaction.
Well, let's stop.
So when we're dealing with difficult people, rather than focusing on that person and what they're doing, can we shift our focus onto our own reactivity? And as we become more conscious of our own reactivity, and as we come to resolve it more and more, what we will find is that naturally we will begin to respond differently. We become less reactive, or perhaps in some cases, not reactive at all. Once you really begin to resolve that underlying emotion, there's not much there to get triggered. And so when that person is behaving in whatever way that used to trigger that emotion, instead you're simply there as a witness to it. You're simply present with the situation, undisturbed by it. And to some degree, if you're not reactive, if you're able to stay centered and present and calm, that will tend to have an influence on the other person. So if the other person is, well, let's say that they're angry. So if they're angry and you react to that with your own anger, what tends to happen is that they then react to your anger by becoming even more angry. And then you get more angry, and the whole thing just escalates. But if they get angry and you're not reactive to it, if you're calm and centered, and I mean genuinely calm, not that you're simply withholding your anger, but that there's only stillness in you. And so you're genuinely calm in the face of their anger. The other person may begin to feel more calm in your presence, and so their anger begins to diminish. And so as we become more conscious in this way, our very presence will begin to have an influence on those around us. And perhaps to some degree, they may even become more conscious, because if they're angry and you're not reacting to it, or perhaps you're responding to them with understanding and compassion, then they might stop for a moment and begin to reflect on their own reactivity, becoming a little more conscious of it, which means that they're becoming a little more conscious. Even if it's just a little bit, every little bit makes all the difference. And so really, when it comes to this whole issue of how to deal with unconscious people, what we really need to look at is our own unconscious reactions. It's really an opportunity for self-reflection and greater self-awareness. It's an opportunity to ask ourselves, what do I need to be more conscious of in myself?
Oh, hey, hi. How come you never called me? Well,
Thank you very much for playing that.
Find value in this content. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe.
the Arthurian people, Leidian people, and the Syrian people came to this world to teach and give humans the key to open your eyes.
God's name possessed you to talk about pornography?
She started it.
She wasn't talking about pornography. She was talking about
All
constitutional
right,
law.
now I have somebody I need to mute
Includes-
in our group here. Does somebody know who's,
but it does not include
where that's coming from?
verses.
All
Try
right.
Patty Rundle. Try Patty
Yes,
Rundle.
thank you. I see it. All right, we got it now. So many fires to put out at once. Comments on that video, anybody?
I just want to ask the question, did anyone watch that and recognize themselves in that 10, 15 minutes that we were watching? Yeah, John?
For sure.
Yeah. Okay. For me, I realized that in the Course of Miracles, there are the 10 characteristics of God's teachers. The first is trust, and that's the only one that we are responsible for. And trust would settle everything now, but it does require total trust, which means everything is happening perfectly and everyone is really the same. And there's no differences. I don't have to judge one from another. But I realize that I do judge people based on what the conversation is going to look like. And the third of the 10 characteristics is called tolerance. And tolerance is just another word for either non-judgment or judgment. If you judge somebody, you're prejudiced or you have a bias and you're intolerant. The funniest thing is I realized I was intolerant to myself. The person who I'm speaking about, they're just there in the world doing their thing. And I react because what's going on, exactly as the guy just said, what's going on is not outside. The person just happens to be there for me to see, so I can see what triggers me. What triggers me is my own intolerance of myself. That I feel sometimes frustrated. I feel somehow unappreciated. I started thinking about the times that I used to feel that people were laughing at me, and I had proof that people would say things, and the ego hates being laughed at. Literally, the one thing the ego hates is anyone laughing at it. And finally, if you use your gentle laughter, the ego will literally leave because he knows that the game is up. It came to me, the reason I don't like the laughter is there's a part of me that doesn't tolerate myself. And if other people are intolerant to me, they become the guilty one. It's not me that's intolerant, it's them that somehow doesn't think that I'm doing a good enough job. And it came to me, I'm always speaking about myself, which is the truth. I say that for the years that I've been teaching. You can write that on my tombstone. Whatever Dov says, he's always speaking about himself. But that was a great conversation that we just heard from this guy, because I know that it's very, very true within the spiritual community. People say, well, I really don't do small talk. I don't do this. I don't do that. What they're really saying is that they have no tolerance, or they judge people depending on what it is that those people are saying. It also came to me that if somebody can give something to me that I'm looking for, because I think that my salvation depends on somebody saying the right thing to me, and I'll hear something that I don't know, and somehow I will be given something that I really need for my awakening, for my enlightenment. And if they can't do it, well, then they're not giving me what it is that I'm looking for. Can you imagine that as a judgment? I mean, can you imagine judging people depending on what it is that you think they can give you? I mean, that's really what it is that Dov is saying. So looking at it, I took a look that basically the ego is doing this entire rap on my head, but who's here to blame the ego? It came to me today, just today, that the ego is just somebody's defending Dove's turf. That's all. The ego is just defending, but Dove doesn't need defending. Lesson 135, the longest lesson in the course. If I defend myself, I'm attacking myself because I'm listening to the wrong voice. The ego is laughing at it all, and basically I've been saying you got to laugh for so many years, but Dove was really talking to himself. And when we first started this evening, there was almost a little crazy thing that happened with Zoom. And for a second, I got into my hysterical thing. Rosalyn wasn't here, but Kathleen, who was here, she said, well, you got to laugh at these things. I realized that's what this entire evening is about. You got to if you take anything here seriously, literally, the ego is in charge of your mind. You're like a puppet on the ego string. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to you, Rosalyn. I'm sure
Yes,
that you
and
have
I'm
some
gonna
fertile
turn it
ground.
over. I'm going to turn it over to Rico and Lynn because they've had their hands up for a long time. So Rico,
Okay.
first.
Lynn, you want to go first?
No, you could, Rico. Go ahead. Thank you, dear.
Well, how beautiful. Thank you, my friend. I'll take you up on it. Good evening, friends and family. Welcome. Thank you for letting me be here with you this evening. Late, I apologize. And before I share about the movie, I wanted to say hello to my friend Kathleen. I haven't seen you so long, Kathleen. How are you? So good to see you. Been a long time. Anyway, can
We
you hear
have
me?
two Kathleens. Which are you? Who are you talking to?
Talking about Kathleen from Florida.
All righty.
One of my old friends. So nice to see you, especially with that smile on your face. I love that. Anyway, what Doug was saying was true for me. As I was watching the movie, obviously, I was doing a little montage of my life and people. And what bothered me about me, because the guy was really right on, was that in the instances where people got on my nerves, it was really me in judgment. I mean, one guy, I don't like being around him. I'm in situations where I need to be around him sometimes, but he's always cursing. I'm not a saint. I don't know anything about cursing, but he's always cursing, always negative, never has a kind word to say about anybody, including himself or me. And he's just so negative that sometimes it bothers me. But when Doug talked about tolerance, the code of my 12-step program is love and tolerance. Well, is it tolerance when it's convenient, or is it tolerance all the time? So that's something I'm going to have to take a look at. The other part of the equation for me is if I get away from the judgment, because most of the people that interact with me, I'm a very non-judgmental person by nature. But if you twist me the wrong way, maybe I'm not. So I need to take a look at that too. So I really like the way the guy broke it down into anytime I'm disturbed, it's usually something going on with me. Oh, get out of here. Anytime I'm disturbed, it's usually something going on with me. When I'm right with my God, you can't push my button. So usually I'm either not right with me and not accessing that power, so anybody can throw me off kilter. When my spiritual thing is lined up, you can call me anything you want but the Son of God, and I'm okay with it. But when I'm not, that's when I notice you can pull me off. And this guy, I would like duck him. I'm a grown man. What am I doing ducking a man? And he's just so negative. Why am I so appalled? Because he's so negative. Am I really that positive, or am I trying to be? So it's just some questions that were raised were really beautiful that I get a chance to look at me and try and grow up and be like you guys when I grow up. But
Thank you so much, Rico. Wow.
very interesting.
That's great. And Lynn, you going to share?
Hi, family. Rico, thank you. Rosalind, Rafi, everybody. So good to be here. It's synchronicity. I chair this meeting at NAMI called Spirituality Speaks. It's all inclusive, whatever resonates with you. And today it was going on, everyone's comparing how many losses they had. And I was, like, this isn't the way I'd like the meeting to go, concentrating on loss. But I realized I had to let the, say what I had to say. And in the meantime, I'm going to shake them to wake up. There's more, But that's my frustration. That's my lack of tolerance, which I hope to be much better at, It's really synchronicity how this came to be today with that movie.
Beautiful.
I mean,
Thank you, Lynn. And Rafi?
Okay, thank you, Len. Rafi?
Yeah. There's a thing that goes on when somebody says something to me and they're coming from a place of a love, they're not particularly aware or they're not following any of this. They say something because they're genuinely concerned. It sounds to my ego mind that they're either criticizing me or they're like my employer and they're talking to me like I'm an employee. Neither of those things are true, but that's the way my mind wants to interpret it. So what I've done now, what I've learned to do is as soon as they start talking, regardless of what it is, I start running into my head right away. I love you, 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 I love you. And that misinterpretation goes away completely. And then I'm sitting there listening and I understand they're coming from a place of they care. And this is the way they see a good way for me to take care of myself. Go and have a checkup. Make sure that this is whatever it is. And before it was like, why are they criticizing? Now I have to be the ego right away gets into a defensive mode right away. But that's one way I found of solving it immediately. And it really works. Just, I love you, I love you, I love you. While they're talking, I'm running that through my head and the words get interpreted the way they are meant to be heard rather than from my ego's point of view.
So beautiful.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Rafi.
Rafi. Yeah, let's just look at your only function in this world is forgiveness. And when you use forgiveness, just like Rafi just did, I love you, I love you, I love you. That's Rafi's way of letting go of the dark thoughts and saying, no, I want to see things differently. So forgiveness looks at that frustrating, irritable thought that is not really about others. It's really about myself. Otherwise, I wouldn't see it in others. It's really, and I love that thing that Rico said. He said, a big guy like me, and I'm ducking this guy. Why am I ducking this guy? I mean, when you find yourself ducking anybody in this theater, in the round, we're all in this together. The only reason that person is in your life is to trigger you. So you get to see that you're intolerant of yourself. You're irritable about yourself. You're frustrated about something that you think you have to fix that you're not fixing. And somehow this person is not helping you. This person is not giving you what it is that you really need. So you're still talking about yourself. Does anyone want to share anything on this? Anything at all? Hi, Joni. Welcome.
Hi, Joni.
Hello.
So nice to have you here, Joni.
Thank you. Glad to be. I'll share.
Yes,
Yes,
please,
Kathleen.
Kathleen.
First of all, thank you, Robin and Rosalind, for sending me the invitation to join the group. I appreciate the trust.
Mhm.
And when I first moved into my mobile home park 5 years ago, the man across the street came over the first day and started to complain about his wife, bitterly complain about his wife. First day I moved in. And so I'm just like, ha, 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 Holy Spirit, really? So, I just started like extending love, extending compassion, and then going, okay, I got to go now, trying to maybe stick a little thing in there about, I know it's easy to feel like people are picking on us. But I knew I couldn't really say much more than that. I tried giving him a Course in Miracles book, Alan Cohen's Easy, Course in Miracles Made Easy. And he just gave it right back. I know he's been really hurt. He's a genius, but he was really hurt as a child. around the way he thinks. And so, you know, every time I see him, I just extend him love, and his wife too. So, you know, I just think the Holy Spirit is just like, right now, here, you know, whatever you're ready for, it's going to appear. And I know that if people directly or indirectly seem to be attacking me, I still get very uncomfortable. So that'll probably start happening a little bit more. Most of the time I'm avoiding all that by being very loving, but I think, wait a minute. Now I've started getting some feedback from my neighbors because I've been feeding the raccoons, and they're coming over and going, you know, it's against the law in Florida to feed raccoons, and you know, you don't want somebody shooting it because it's coming out in the day. And so I guess that's as close as I'm getting right now to being directly attacked. But I am intrigued by wondering if I actually feel like practicing it. It's like Course in Miracles friend, like just attack me, like just say some stuff, you know, so I can practice. But anyway, thanks for letting me share.
Okay, thank
Anybody
you,
else want to share?
Kathleen.
Joni, we
Yeah.
showed a video first, and we put in the chat the link to that video. So if you want to catch it later, but it was this lovely man, and the title is how do we deal, something like this.
How do we deal with unconscious people?
Okay. And so from the point of view of we're so much more elevated, and I'm laughing, but he starts out in this beautiful way. Do you notice one of the ways he was so effective is he started out agreeing. Yes, we all have these people that annoy us because we feel like we're further along in some way. So he's really saying yes and in his video. He says, yes, I understand how you feel. I feel that way too. And then he makes his point. And that's very effective, because if you go up to someone and say, no, your thinking isn't quite right, let me show you. We've all had our experience with that. But he presented it in a very, very lovely, gentle way. And he brought it back to I. And whenever you share from I, we get less resistance, because you're just saying how it's been for you rather than telling someone else how it is. So I thought that was very effective.
Yeah, thank you for that, Rosalyn. I'm going to put up on the chat. We were talking about our inability to tolerate somebody else who's not at our level. So tolerance is mentioned in the Course in Miracles as the third of the 10 characteristics of God's teachers. Remember, you don't have to do anything for the last 9, but you do have to develop trust, which is the first. And trust, once you develop total trust, everything else is given to you. The honesty, consistency, the tolerance, the patience, the generosity, the joy, the faithfulness, the defenselessness. It's all given to you because you've let go of your dark thoughts, your belief system that somehow I'm going to get something from somebody else, or there's something in the world I have to learn, I have to get, and I'm not getting it from this person. So I have to only talk to people that are at my level. So I'm going to put up what it says for tolerance. I'll put it up right now. I just want to read what it says. It says, God's teachers do not judge. To judge is to be dishonest. For to judge is to assume a position that you do not have. Judgment without self-deception is impossible. Judgment implies that you have been deceived in your brothers. How then could you have not been deceived in yourself? Judgment implies a lack of trust, and trust remains the bedrock of the teachers of God whole thought system. Let this be lost, and all of his learning goes. Without judgment are all things equal. Without judgment, all things are equally acceptable. I always say that acceptance is the same as forgiveness. What can you not accept if you but knew that everything that seems to happen is happening for you? It tells you that in lesson 135. If I defend myself, I'm attacking myself. It says, without judgment are all things equally acceptable, for who could judge otherwise? Without judgment are all men teachers, are all men brothers. I'm sorry. Without judgment are all men brothers, for who is there who stands apart? Judgment destroys honesty and shatters trust. No teacher of God can judge and hope to learn. Any thoughts on any of what you just heard? Because we're really talking about judgment and forgiveness, and we're not forgiving anything outside of us. We're really forgiving our own mistaken belief system. I want to say one last thing because even though we have 15 to 20 minutes to go, Amy Anderson was here a couple of weeks ago and did a Ho'oponopono. And what I got out of Amy's Ho'oponopono was she wasn't doing it with another person. She was doing it with God. And when we talk about this person in our life that we really can't stand because they're not at our level, if you really go a level deeper, if you go a little deeper in that deep dive to unpack all the baggage, you get to see that you're really speaking about the fact that you think your father is judging you and your father is not helping you. And somehow you got to find something in this world that will give you something that your father didn't give you. And my birthday lesson is lesson 133, which is I will not value what's valueless. What's valuable belongs to me. So I'm judging that what I have is not valuable. I have to find someone out there who's going to give me something that has some value. So when I do that Ho'oponopono forgiveness process with myself, I'm really doing it. I'm talking to my father who created me. I didn't make myself up. I am as God created. And I say, I'm sorry, Father. You know, I misunderstood. I didn't understand. You have given me everything, and I was mistaken. Please forgive me for I didn't trust. I really didn't trust. And you know, I know I'm sustained by your love, and that's all there really is. And I already have that love. It's already mine, and there's no reason for me to have any fear. Yeah, there's nothing to fear. It's the fear that drives me nuts. It's the fear of punishment, the fear of guilt that I'm being judged. So when I can let that go, I can literally say exactly as Rafi was saying, I love you, Father. I love you. Thank you so much for everything that you give to me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And that's the kind of forgiveness that we're really looking to sustain. It's not forgiveness of this person who's not speaking at our level. We're really asking God, you know, I am mistaken. I didn't understand. Why do I keep looking in the world? The final lesson of part 1 of the workbook is lesson 200. And lesson 200 says, there is no peace but the peace of God. There is no peace but the peace of God. If you look in this world for the peace of God, you're not going to find it. It's not you're looking for a needle in a haystack. There's no needle. It's all hay. And then he says, come home. Look where it is and you're going to find it. Look within. It's in your pocket. But if you value anything in this world, including the Course of Miracles or a book or getting more knowledge or somebody knows something more than you and you're going to find out what they get to know, that's going to burn a hole in your pocket because you're valuing something out in the world that is valueless. But if you look in your pocket, you already have what you're looking for. You already have it. I
That's
love
one of
you
my
all.
favorites. That's one of
know?
my favorite things that you say. Beautiful. Thank you, Dov. John, you have your hand up.
You know, Dov, thank you very much for that. I really appreciate every word you said. And it's about understandings and misunderstandings. Whether it's you know that the road goes the wrong way. So let me ask you this. Do me a favor, Dov. For some reason or other, I did not get that link. I got your message, but I do want the link to that video. And I can't get it.
I'll send the link out with the replay. I'll send it to everybody.
I can also just put it here because it's already in the chat. If you can't,
But they have to know how to copy it, Dov. And some people don't know how to copy it. Otherwise, it's hard to copy.
Well,
It's not in my chat. Trust me, it's not in my chat. I just got the message and no link. I got your message
Okay,
and no link.
all right. Rosalyn is going to send it out.
So that's about understanding and misunderstanding. And I had that at the drive-in today when I went for my chicken.
Okay.
And you know what? When I got to the window and I didn't get what I wanted, and she said that she told me to hold on, and I just gave my message. I had to absorb my lesson today on humility, and it's exactly what you said, Dov. I just was stunned for a moment, but then after I came to, I'm sorry, please forgive me. And it was an immediate reaction. You know, my body relaxed and I felt so much better. It was about a misunderstanding. Yeah, and I'm sorry, and I'm asking for forgiveness on that. So that's kind of amplified it for me a whole lot for showing up here today. And that video is incredible. I tried to Google that. It's not on the Google. All I get is Eckhart Tolle.
It's hard to find, but I'll send it to you.
By the way, I'm totally enjoying our program today. Thank you for being here, everybody, bringing your energy to the meeting.
Yes, yes.
Thank you, John.
Lynn, you have your hand up.
I'm so grateful for you guys. You know, I could have had a V8, you know, I didn't put two and two together when I was in there.
I could have had a V8.
You know, I was just like listening to them and thinking, you know, I was criticizing myself because I wanted to move the meeting in a more positive way, but I didn't want to interrupt their feelings. But everybody wants to outdo everyone else with their losses. And, you know, so I put it on me, you know, I couldn't do anything, but all things are lessons God would have me learn. And then I come here and next time I'll say, I love you, I love you, I love you. And that's it, let it be. Thank you so much.
So beautiful. Yes, thank you, Lynn.
Thank you, Lynn.
I would like to share something. I am in a book writing group, and it's quite an extraordinary group, and people are different levels. Some people have published 1, 2, or 3 books. Some people are novice writers like me. And one of the things that this person who leads it says, when anybody has an achievement or an inspiration and you feel some jealousy because it's based on oneness, if anybody can do anything, that means you can too, because we're one. So she always suggests saying, and out loud saying, I'm one with that. You know, so somebody has a big success and then maybe somebody else has a contraction, oh, I'll never do it, or it's not good for her but not me, whatever, without any of the spiritual, there are some spiritual concepts, but without a text, people just say, I am so one with that, and you know exactly where they're coming from, and it turns around what could have been an otherness, a competition. But I've taken that a step further because now it's in my language. It's because whenever you love people or you really like them, they have, I think, a deeper effect on you than people you don't take in. And these people have had a big effect on me. So I am one with that because it uses that phrase of my oneness that is so important to me in my every millisecond of living. I now take someone, if there's a millisecond of irritation, I now use that, I'm one with that thing that I thought was ugly, that thing that I thought was less than or irritable or whatever the category is of otherness, not me, that moment of I'm different and I say, I'm one with that too. I'm one with, and that brings it right back to me so quickly and turns it around, like Rafi was saying, what he says, I love you, I love you. For me, I'm just throwing out another way. I'm one with that. And then it takes care of that part of A Course in Miracles that says take responsibility for whatever's happening. It includes everything Dov said about it's only us that we're ever talking about. But we need these little tools when we have a moment of madness to bring us back to our, what the Course says is our right mind or sanity. And even though we don't have a lot of time left, would it be all right with you, Dov, and the rest of you to just take this to spirit for a few minutes, the lesson that we've had today? Would that be all right? Dov, are you okay with that?
Yes, I'd like to just comment on what you were just sharing.
Yes.
Because I'm listening to you, and what I'm getting is that you came to a place I can finally accept it. It's really a matter of acceptance. And I always say that acceptance and forgiveness is the same thing. I
Absolutely.
see it as the same. So I
Absolutely.
just want to put up that one paragraph from lesson 135, paragraph 18. The one comes from the lesson I mentioned in my sharing earlier. If I defend myself, I'm attacking myself. After 17 paragraphs of telling you, do not plan, do not try and fix yourself, do not do those things, just trust. And then he comes to paragraph 18, and this is what he says. What could you not accept if you but knew that everything that happens, all events, past, present, and even to come, are gently planned by one whose only purpose is your good? That's all you need, is that first sentence. Everything is happening for your good. What can you not accept? My mind went absolutely crazy thinking that, well, I'm being judged, somebody's being sarcastic, they don't like me. That's the ego talking to me, and I'm listening to my insane belief system. So with that, Rosalyn, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, and let's take off from that. And let's broaden the oneness. Let's go to the oneness. You know, there's, I would like to add a lesson to this, to what you said, because I did something today with lesson 95. And I am one self, united. And if we take off with my Creator, just for a moment, I am one self, united at one with every aspect of creation and limitless in power and in peace. For me, if I add my Creator, I still have two. For me, it works more deeply. When I am a separate self, I need a God. I need something to wake me up, to help me. But when I go to the oneness, when I go to, I am one self, united and one with every aspect of creation and limitless in power and in peace. So let's take, and that's complete acceptance of what Dov was just reading to us. What could you not accept? And if we broaden the you to mean everyone, if I am one with everything, then it's not even what is good for me. It's just the good. It's the good. What could you not accept about the weather? What could you not accept about what is? Acceptance is the opposite of judgment. It's the opposite, and it's the same. It's the opposite of attack, and it's the same as forgiveness. There's nothing to forgive if we accept and allow and open to we are one with everything, including a creator, if we want to think of ourselves as being created. But when I asked how old is that tree, I was told by the expert there is no one tree. All of the trees are connected underground. He couldn't answer me the age of the tree. And we're just like that. Let me accept all things as they are, Dov just put in the chat. And when I do that, and when you do that, take a look at the person you had at the beginning of the hour that annoyed you. And remember how you felt. And now go to this place where I am one self. And what does that one self mean? It means we have a body, we're embodied. We are energy embodied in a vehicle, in a localization, in a manifestation of life, of love, of wisdom, of the knower. There's a knower that is experiencing even that irritation that we witnessed in ourselves. There's a knower. Can we now, for this moment, and maybe later, separate the experiencer from the knower? Wow, the knower belongs to eternity. The knower doesn't need any fixing. The knower doesn't need mind training. The experiencer is that ego self, the one that thinks they're not good enough, that they're lacking, that they say the wrong thing, that people make fun of them, that they're better than other people, that they're worse than other people. Never mind what they think. It's all a bunch of stories, right? But when we go to the knower, we are joining our ancestors. We are joining life. We are joining the roots of the tree. We are joining truth. If the tree had consciousness and said, "How am I doing?" the tree would be crazy. The tree just is. That's the I am. That's the acceptance of whatever is. The tree has no comment on the weather. The weather is the weather. If there is danger, apparently plants and trees communicate that danger to the other plants and trees so that there are chemical reactions that can keep them all safe. But they don't go into fear. That's what, and defense. That's what the Course is saying we don't need. But if there's a fire, and there was a child who was going to put their hand in the pretty fire, we would take their hand out, but we wouldn't scold the child for being ignorant. I hope we wouldn't. And so that's the way we can be with ourselves. We can be that loving container that the knower is, the one that watches us and really never has judgment. The local witness has judgment, but there is a knower of the local witness. The knower that sees the local witness judging. And that knower is the same every time we come to it, no matter how we do it. There's a neutrality, there's a peace. And if I were to define peace, it would be the absence of suffering. So it's more than neutrality. It's coming into contact with the love that we are. And what if we were to say, I am one with that. I am one with that. I am one with that. And when our hearts are full and our bodies are calm, we can do what that video says and be calm and be a calm presence for anyone who has forgotten who they are. And when we say, I am one with that, to the inside ourselves, to that person who seems like not us, then that connection is made and we're no longer in judgment. And we might be offering a life raft of love and to be able to share the container to share the roots that we are, in fact. And so whenever you feel like coming back, we welcome you back to the room. Take a deep breath. And notice there's a space between your inhalation and your exhalation. And we can start identifying with space, the things that my new favorite word is obfuscate. The space that we are, the love that we are, the I am one with that we don't notice is obfuscated by the experiences that we notice. We pay attention to the man who annoys us, the woman who's jealous, the whatever. So I like obfuscate because it catches my attention. It's such a big word. Dov, you're muted, honey.
The word blockage is the word they use instead of obfuscate, but it says your only function here is to remove the blockages to your awareness of love's presence. The light and the love is here. That's who you are. You got that in your pocket. But when you're trying to get something like light and love outside of you, you're burning a hole in your pocket.
So
Thank you,
beautiful.
Roz.
So beautiful. Thank you, Dov. Anybody have a comment? How do you feel now? Are you ready to have a different experience when you have a moment of other?
I am. I want to thank Rafi for giving me my new mantra when I run into that. I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, which is easy for me to do because love sits well with me. So I'm going to use that and I'll report back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Rico. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Rafi, too.
Thank you, Rafi. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. Really, it's truly, Rosalyn and I are grateful for your presence. We actually call it the presence of happiness. This is why it's the presence of happiness. We're all joined as one, truly. Thank
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for having this time.
Thank you so much. Mwah.
Bye, everyone. Mwah.
I'm going to copy Roger and say, I am one with that.
I'm one with that.
Amen.
I'm one with that. Thank you.
I love you. I love you.
Bye.
Mwah.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Night, Lynn. I'm kiss you good night. Have a sign of, there's always kiss me good night. I'm kissing you good night.